I want to show you guys all the holdings or some of the holdings that the Harvard University's endowment currently has in their portfolio. There are a couple of things that I actually don't understand, and I'm going to show you guys. And if anybody does know, you guys can comment and let me know. But when you guys go to the harvard.edu website and go to the endowment site, you guys can see about the endowment, how the money is allocated between schools. And if you want more information on what's allocated in different portfolio and asset classes and information about the performance and the financials, right here in the bottom of the page, you can see all that information year by year. So if we click on 2019, you get this PDF with lots of information. But the main thing that I'm actually focused on is right here, page 14 of this PDF, and it says Harvard Management Company. Here it says, dear members of the Harvard community, for the most recent fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019, the return on the Harvard endowment was 6.5% and the value stood at 40.9 billion. The endowment also distributed more than 1.9 billion towards the university's operating budget and supported financial aid, research fund, faculty support, and more. And this is actually the performance, and they actually have public equity, private equity, hedge funds, real estate, natural resources, bonds, tips, other real assets, and cash and other. So all their money is actually distributed between these asset classes. And their allocation, and the one I actually really want to show you guys, is the public equity allocation. And I'm going to show you the 13F source filing, and it's going to and with that 13F to the SEC's, it gives me the opportunity to see what Harvard has been trading in their equities portfolio. In 2019, they did make 5.9%. Obviously, in private equity, they made the most with 16%. Hedge funds 5.5, real estate 9.3, natural resources negative 12.4, bonds 5.7, etc., etc. So you guys can see that overall they made 6.5%, and I guess their overall value was 40.9. So basing on this, I don't know if there's much information on the rest of this portfolio, but for public equity, I can go here and see that the stock that they have the most, which is actually incredible. And actually, before I even begin up with this, if you actually add all the market value, it gives me around 1 point something billion. But here, out of this 40.9 billion, it says that there's a 26% allocation. So maybe I'm not doing my math right or something. I would have thought that maybe there would be more money on the equity side, uh, but that just based on the types of stocks that they have or the amount of market value that they have overall. But besides that, they actually have RPRX, and I actually didn't know what they were. So when I went here, I can see Royalty Pharma, and overall, haven't done that great. I mean, I don't really know much about them, but one thing that has been interesting to me is that they have 60. Their portfolio is 60.83% of RPRX, with a market value of pretty much $713 million, which is incredible. We can see here that they first owned this stock quarter 2 of 2020 with the average price of $40.55. And obviously, this was reported in August on the 18th. And that's pretty incredible. Obviously, there must be some information at Harvard. Maybe companies are working with Harvard, or maybe some Harvard researchers are working with this company, and they probably believe that there's a future with this. So for them, or for anyone to have a 60% equity allocation on one stock, that says a lot. Here we can go down, and I'm just gonna mention some of them. Uber with 8.25%, Google, PANWF, Facebook, GLD, which is actually gold, RVMD, and actually GLD was great. I actually had this or had it in my portfolio. I actually ended up selling it, but I did have a lot of GLD in my portfolio. IVV, PLRX, obviously the famous QQQ, NCNA, GBIO, VEA. FULC, IJH. There's a lot of these that I haven't heard before actually. So IJR, VWO, MGTA, BNTX, NTGN, VIG, and PING. So obviously the last three, which is NCGN, VIG, and PING, are the ones that they completely sold. Um, and you can see here when they first owned it. I don't know if it tells you. I'm assuming that when it says sold all is by the second quarter was when they had sold all those stocks or shares. It would be my assumption, and either way, there was not much of effect because the previous percentage of portfolio, which was 0.21 percent and 0.05%, and here was 1.27%. So this is a really interesting portfolio. We have 60% on healthcare, and then everything else is consumer discretionary, tech. It pretty much seems like tech. Have Uber, Google, this PANW. I think that's Palo Alto Networks, Facebook. So a lot of tech and obviously gold, which is actually very surprising to me. And with over $22 million, even though it's 1.89% of the portfolio, that is. Uh, Pretty surprising to me. Healthcare, finance, and the rest, besides the top, which are tech, the rest, which is barely anything, because if you look at the percent of the portfolio is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say this is over close, a little bit less than 10% on healthcare and finance. And everything literally is pretty much healthcare and finance, which about 10% of the portfolio. And then everything else is pretty much, well, besides this healthcare, which is 60%, the rest, which is close to, let's say, close to 10, close to what 20, 30% or something, which is actually tech. Uh, which is really, really interesting. This is one of the portfolios that I've seen that is quite ordinary and quite different, but obviously endowments do take that approach compared to different types of funds. And as you can see, obviously they base 26% of their allocation on public equity, and obviously they run with 33% with hedge funds and 20% private equity, and you can see that they have done really well. And obviously in 2019 private equity did extremely well. And I wonder in 2020 how this would have changed, because this is actually the 2019, and this is actually the quarter 2 day reported August 18 of 2020. So I wonder how much of these allocations have changed, though I don't think there would have been such a drastic change, but I do think there probably would have been some type of change. So this video is just to show you guys that the top holdings and the way Harvard's Endowment Fund has what holdings they've had for the past quarters, and the type of changes that they've made. Here you guys can see the ranks, the changes in share over time, the percent. I'm assuming these changes are quarter by quarter, and when they owned it, so you guys can and if you guys have any questions, definitely you can ask me the questions, or you guys have any comments, or you guys have more information about this Harvard, about the public equity, or even all this information below. I would like to know more. Obviously, I'm really interested, in endowments, how endowments, over time have changed their allocations, how they actually go or invest differently from the general public, from hedge funds and everybody else. So it's really interesting to see. And even here, I think it's on page, um, what page is this? Actually, it doesn't give me the page, but earlier in the report, you guys can also see, how these funds are allocated by or in the endowment, how where the money goes to what school at Harvard. So obviously, Divinity School or Harvard, 70% is actually the endowment is made available for operations. So obviously, they can only spend 74% on operations. They can only spend, I think, it's 6% of that money from the Divinity School on student income, and I think there's a lot of not miscommunication, just not people aren't knowledgeable on endowments and how they work, and they think that, oh yeah, Harvard's endowment is over 40 billion, they can just give it to people, and that's not how it is. There's a lot of people that have contributed this money, that have given this money, and there are people that say, hey, I'm going to give Harvard, or I'm going to give the Divinity School at Harvard $1 million or $20 million, and they say you can only spend this money on, for example, let's say on sponsored on gifts, for example, like this is a gift or something, and you can only use it for this, and Harvard has to make sure that that amount of money gets only used for that, and they can't use it for anything else. Those are things that people, you do have to understand that endowments are, very specific to the person that gives the money, how that money is used, how that money is allocated. Everything is extremely precise. But you guys can see here in this table how everything is, is distributed by the whole Harvard. This is by the whole university, and obviously these are by all the schools at Harvard. And obviously there's plenty of information in this PDF, and obviously at the bottom you guys can see the whole financials and what they spent their money on, and etc. etc. A lot of it is all public information. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know. Thank you.